Hey, Tommy from the Run Testers. In this video, we are going to be doing a versus of the Saucony Endorphin Speed 4 and the New Balance Rebel V4. Let's jump in and do the versus. The New Balance Rebel V4 costs £140 or $139.99. It weighs 207 grams or 7.3 ounces for men in a size 8, and the drop is 6mm. Saucony Endorphin Speed 4 costs £180 or $170. It weighs 239 grams or 8.4 ounces for men in a size 8, and the drop is 8mm. The New Balance Rebel V4 is a daily shoe that's designed for faster training while still providing plenty of cushioning. The FuelCell foam is a PEBA EVA blend that offers a soft ride as well as a good level of propulsion, with a geometry that's taller and wider than its predecessor. The upper is a breathable mesh that uses the brand's FantomFit technology to ensure a supportive fit, with a good level of padding around the ankle collar. On the outsole is a generous layer of rubber across the forefoot, as well as strategically placed sections to the rear of the shoe. The Saucony Endorphin Speed 4 takes learnings from its hugely popular predecessors by making a few modifications to improve the ride. The most important of those is a re-engineered wing nylon plate to provide additional reinforcement while maintaining flexibility. There's also an updated mesh upper design that aims to give a more secure fit than the slightly roomy Endorphin Speed 3, and a new lattice outsole rubber to improve grip and durability. The shoe still uses the brand's Power PEBA foam to ensure a high level of propulsion when picking up the pace, combining that with a smooth ride thanks to the impressive speed roll technology. So, Nick, how has the fit been for you in these two shoes?
With the Speed 4, very simple fit one, I'd say. I've got my normal size here, the same size I have in all Saucony shoes, UK 9, US 10. Fit's been good, certainly got a good amount of length in the shoe. With the Saucony Endorphin Speed 3, I found that shoe a little bit wide and I would slip around in it a little bit. I think this is still a pretty wide shoe, but they've tightened it up a little bit. I didn't have any heel slip problems with the Endorphin Speed 4, so I was happy in my normal size. The Rebel actually got a half size up because some versions of the Rebel have been very tight at the front, and I thought it'd be better to go a half size up. Actually, I think I should have stuck to my normal size because of the Rebel 4. They've made the toe box much wider in particular, so it's much roomier. So I would say stick with your normal size with both shoes. It was okay, half size up in the Rebel. Didn't have any problems with the heel or anything like that, but it's a lot wider than previous versions of the shoe, I thought. How about you?
So the Saucony Endorphin Speed 4, yeah, same as you. I didn't have any issues with the Speed 3. I know a lot of people said it was a bit too wide, a bit too much space in it. I noticed this is a bit narrower. I mean, it's not a narrow shoe, but I noticed it's a bit leaner than the Saucony Endorphin Speed 3. But I would say to my size now, I found it to be a very comfortable shoe, not had any issues in it at all. The Rebel V4, interesting you should say about some people sizing up half size in the shoe. So I never have problems with shoes with rubbing or anything like that. We've talked about this on the podcast before, but I did with this shoe. So I've got this in UK size 8, and I would have gone up half a size because it does rub the end of my toes.
So you could go half size up for sure, because New Balance, the way they convert UK sizes to a smaller size in the US than it is with Saucony, so sometimes that's why they're cramped, but also they just sometimes make very short shoes for no reason.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'd go half size in the Rebel V4. Okay, so two daily shoes that are probably quite different for a lot of people. How have you found the run test in these?
Very enjoyable in both shoes. Two of my favourite new daily trainers of the year. I'll talk about the Endorphin Speed 4 first. This is, I think, more of the same from what we've seen from the line. I think it is the most versatile shoe on the market. You've got a comfortable ride there that's very relaxed if you want to go and do easy runs in the shoe, but has got enough punch from the plate that I've done a couple of fast runs. I've done a longer hard run. I've done a run with a bit of like progression run with a bit of speed at the end, things like that. You can kind of do anything in it, really. It's a really impressive all-round shoe. I think it's quite similar to the Endorphin Speed 3, maybe a tad softer at the back, but I think in general it feels very much the same, and that rocket ride really works well for a massive variety of runs. We've been big fans in this for a while. Tom, do you think anything new about the Endorphin Speed 4 in particular?
No, I mean, I said this in the review when we did it, that it's pretty much a progression of the line for me. I think for me, I think the Speed is a line that has been very, very consistent throughout its versions. I know some people commented saying that the Speed 4 is very different than previous versions, but I don't really feel that. I think there's probably a little bit more, probably a tiny bit more firmness in the ride to me, but not massively. I still think it does exactly the same job. It is a fantastic all-rounder shoe. I've used it loads for various runs in marathon training, interval sessions and things, and does exactly what it says on the tin. It is fantastic for speed. So yeah, very much enjoyed this shoe for all the runs that I've done in it.
Yeah, I think there's probably more of a difference between the Endorphin Speed 2 and 3 than there is between the 3 and 4 for sure. If you're someone who really found the Endorphin Speed 2 very different to the 3, I still think you probably won't like the 4 then, because I think it's closer to the 3. I don't think there was that much difference myself between the 2 and the 3. I think it did get a little bit more forgiving and a bit wider, but I didn't notice a huge difference. But if you did, then you will find the 4 more similar to the 3, I would say.
Go on then. What about the Rebel?
Well, Rebel is quite different to previous versions of the shoe for sure. Like, the thing about the Rebel is it's always been a pretty simple, low stack, nimble shoe, no plate in it, and that is kind of all true of the latest model, but it actually feels really cushioned, I think. I think it feels as cushioned as the Speed, despite the fact it's got a much lower stack on paper. It's a lot wider than previous versions of the Rebel, which means it's a lot more comfortable and supportive on easy runs, I found, and I just found it a much better generalist shoe as a result, and I didn't think it really lost any of the pace you had with previous versions. So Rebel 2 and 3 were very narrow, nimble shoes. They were really good for speed work. I think they just lost a bit out when it came to longer runs because they weren't as supportive as other shoes, and that meant their versatility wasn't so great for me for marathon training. I think the Rebel 4 is a lot more comfortable and supportive on those runs. Still got nice bouncy feeling and a fast feeling for things like track sessions I've done in this shoe, and it still does feel like a quick shoe, but it is a bit broader and a bit more, I guess, tilted towards easy training than previous versions of the Rebel, and that makes it, I think, a very versatile shoe again, a bit like the Speed. But yeah, I still can't really get over that the stack height is 30mm. It doesn't feel like that at all to me. So what do you think of it?
Yeah, very. I think that the main thing to bring. I haven't used a Rebel since the first one, and the first one was a completely different shoe altogether.
Yeah.
But it is definitely a noticeably soft shoe when you're out running it, and it is a noticeably wide shoe as well. You can really feel all of that midsole foam under your feet when you're running in it, but it doesn't slow the shoe down. It does feel really good. I love a cushion shoe, Nick. We all know this.
Yeah.
So I instantly really got on with this shoe. What I would say about it is that I do think it's versatile. I do think it skews a lot more towards that sort of cushion side of things now, but I think it lacks the pop that you get from like the Saucony Endorphin Speed 4. And I do think sometimes when I'm running in it, I can feel that midsole foam is a little bit not so much dulling the speed for me, but you can feel yourself sinking in a bit, and I don't feel like I'm always getting an energy return back. But for most of the runs that I've done in it over the marathon training, and I've done interval sessions and long runs and things in it, it is really, really good. I think it just lacks a little bit of pop, which some people might want from a shoe like this.
Yeah, I definitely agree. There's times when it just doesn't feel as fast as a shoe like the Speed, which is a bit more rockered. It obviously has the plate in it as well. It has a firmer midsole foam. I think a more responsive midsole foam. So basically, there are speed runs I'm very happy doing in the Rebel, and there are ones that I'm not so happy doing in the Rebel. So anything like kind of short intervals is fine because it's a really lightweight shoe. You can bash them out really well. Did a long progression run as well, 15-mile progression run, finishing pretty quick, and that was fine as well. Just building through the run, just going into it. It's more that kind of tempo hour or like long blocks at around like marathon pace or half marathon pace, where I think I really feel the benefit of the plate in something like the Speed, where it just keeps you pushing through, running efficiently. The Rebel just doesn't give you so much back, and I think you flag a bit more towards the end. And it's not just the plate. I think it's like I said, I think the foam is a bit softer. It's got a bit of bounce for sure, but it doesn't feel quite as resilient as the all PEBA foam you have in the Endorphin Speed 4. This is this PEBA EVA mix in the New Balance, and it feels good. It is very good for a versatile shoe on the speedy side of things. I just don't think it's as good as a more speed focused shoe like the Speed when it comes to sustaining pace over long distances.
No. Well, I've got more to say, but let's save it for the verdict.
Oh, come back.
Okay, so what's your verdict on these two shoes, Nick?
So these are both really good shoes for sure. I think if you want the most versatile option, it is the Endorphin Speed. It's got a lot more range at the higher end of things. It is a faster shoe than the Rebel, and I think it's really good if you're doing a lot of race preparation. We are doing long sections at race pace, that kind of thing. The Rebel, though, is a lot cheaper and is a very versatile shoe, and you can do all those same runs in it. I just don't think it performs quite as well, but if you're maybe looking for an unplated shoe to do all those kind of things in it, it would be top of my list. I think it has a more relaxed, comfortable feel for easy runs than the Speed. I really rate the Speed as an easy run shoe, but I do think the Rebel is a bit more comfortable just to pull on and mooch around in. So I'd say that they are kind of daily trainers that tilt towards a slightly different end of things, but I think the Speed is probably the more versatile one that can do everything the Rebel can and then give you a bit more punch at the higher end. But it is, you're paying a fair bit more for that, and that's kind of the classic super trainer versus daily trainer option you have there. I fully agree. I like both of these shoes, and for the majority of my runs I would
find it difficult to pick between these two shoes if I wasn't talking about price. But what I would say, I think there's a feel to these shoes which will certain people will like more than others. I think the Rebel V4 has that nice level of softness. If you may be looking for an all-rounder shoe, but really your training skews more towards the slower runs, the longer runs, I think it's a better shoe for that. And for me, that's probably the sort of shoe that I'd look for. I'd rather use the New Balance Rebel V4 for majority of the training that I'm doing within a week. I think the Speed 4 is still a fantastic shoe. For me, it is better at those faster paces, but I'm not doing those runs as much as I'm doing the other runs. So really, I think it comes down to the sort of runner that you are and what your focus is when it comes to daily training miles. So I would pick the New Balance Rebel V4 for the price and for the type of running that I'm doing. But I do think the Speed 4 is better for a certain type of runner, especially if your week of training really does go towards the faster side of things more often than not.
Yeah, actually, my marathon book just now, I think would illustrate this quite. So early on in the block, a lot of my easy runs were easy to steady runs. So lots of progression runs where you finish at a decent clip, and it's not like you're going all out. And the Rebel does those runs well, but the Speed is just a bit more comfortable to do them in. It keeps you a bit fresher, that kind of thing. And then later on in the block, we move much more to a 1 day's a session, the next day is just a purely easy run, and that's when the Rebel would think would be the more useful shoe, because on the session I might have used a proper, full carbon racing shoe, and then on the easy days the Rebel is a bit more comfortable like the Speed. But then that said, at that stage of the cycle I could have used the Speed for the session and the easy run, so it still does have the extra versatility for sure. But you're right, it is a lot more expensive, and the Rebel is pretty great.
That's it from us on this Versus. Thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, click the bell, all those sorts of things that make us really happy. And don't forget to check out our podcast, which comes out at the end of each month. If you go down to the caption below, you can find a link to it. Thanks a lot for watching. Catch you next time.